Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Muninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayani Amba Tvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshini Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Devyaistavai Vedai Sangha Padakramopanishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na vidutsura suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So after telling us what is Kshetra, this field, including this body, everything that we see, and Kshetrajna is the knower, which today we will talk about. What is this knower in the third verse today? Then Bhagavan Shri Krishna switches to Jnanam, and he says Jnanam is what? Practice of values. These values, when we practice, that is Jnanam. Because to get the knowledge, you have to have purification of mind, and that purification of mind only comes with practice of values, and only in a pure mind can this knowledge be. So these values, we think they are very hard. We say, Bhagavan, it is very hard to practice these values. You're telling me I should have no ego, amanitvam, adambitvam, I should have forgiveness, patience, shanti, a straightforwardness, I should be pure of mind, and I should be self-controlled, always have my mind in you, detached from objects, indriyartheshu vairagyam, anahankar, no ego. How can I practice all these? I should not be asaktir anabhishvam gaha putradara grihadishu. I should not be too attached to all, my near and dear one and my property, house. How can I do that? It's very hard to practice all that. So what do you think? What is the best way I can do it? Can you give us something simple? Ek line mein batao, in one word or one line. So Bhagavan says, you want one word? Okay, I'll give you the key. There was a famous song in the 1960s, Bada Hi CID Hai Ye Neeli Chhatri Wala. I think those who are old enough probably remember that song. Johnny Walker sings it. And he says the one with the blue umbrella means the sky is his umbrella. He's a CID. He's a FBI agent. He has har taale ki chabi rakhe, har chabi ka tala. He has the key to every lock and the lock to every key. How many people remember that song? Nobody? Oh, few people do. So that tells our age, if you remember that song. But anyway, the point is that God has the key to every lock and the lock to every key. So here he will give us in one word the key how to practice all these values. He has told about 15 values. You say it's too much. I don't think I can do that. Can you give me one? Bhagavan says, okay, one you want, I'll make it easy for you. So today he will give us one value, practicing which all other values will come. That is the beauty of this particular value that we are going to cover today. And that is in verse number 11, chapter 13, verse number 11. The one value practicing which all the other 19 values come automatically. So that is what we will study today. So verse 11, Mai chananya yogena
Mai chananya yogena
bhaktiravyavicharini
bhaktiravyavicharini
vivikta desha sevitvam
vivikta desha sevitvam
aratirjana samsadi
aratirjana samsadi.
Together. Mai chananya yogena bhaktiravyavicharini vivikta desha sevitvam aratirjana samsadi. So he says, one thing you want, you practice that, all other values, 20 will come. So what is it? He says, Mai, in me, cha, and in me, Ananya yoga. This is, Gurudev says, this is a phrase that Bhagavan Sri Krishna has himself come up with. It's not there in any scriptures. There is no yoga called Ananya yoga. There is Bhakti yoga, there is Jnana yoga. But Ananya yoga means, Ananya means no other. Yoga means attachment, joining. So not joining with anything else except me. Mai, in me. And in me what? Mai is the seventh case. In me what? Bhakti. Bhakti means devotion. Bhakti we all know. Bhakti we know Bhagavan, but what we will hear today is a lot more than what we think bhakti means. Go to the temple and offer flower. That is good, but bhakti is a lot more than that. So bhakti avyabhicharini. Vyabhicharini means one who has many, but one who has me alone and not anything else. Me and me alone. That is called bhakti avyabhicharini. So devotion for me and me alone, without any otherness, complete, unswerving, undivided devotion for me. And then the second line, Bhagavan says, Vivikta desha sevitvam. Vivikta means loneliness, solitude. Not loneliness, but solitude. Desha means place. So in a solitary place, sevitvam. Sevitvam means resorting to, enjoying solitude, a solitary place. And aratihi. Aratihi means, rati means excessive attachment, excessive joy in these things. And we say, Bhagwan mein rati honi chahiye, means you should get joy in the company of God or of bhaktas. But he says, arati, not enjoying what? Jana samsadi, the company of people. So enjoying solitude and not enjoying company of people, he says, that is my bhakta. So you mean he just stays in one cave somewhere and doesn't meet with anybody? No, that is not it. So we'll see what it means. So as we said, love for God is bhakti. Love for objects or people is asakti. Asakti means I am attached. But when I am attached to God, that is called bhakti. And as we said, it has to be unswerving with no otherness. Now, our bhakti is not like that. Our bhakti is what? I love my child, I love my house, I love my bank balance, I love my 401k, I love my car, I love my dog, and I love God also. So after about 10, 15, फिर भगवान का नंबर आता है, okay, God, I love you too. Bhagavan says, I love you too, nahi chalega. You have to love me and me and me alone. You can't say, I love all those things and I also love God. Does that mean I should not love my family, my children? Yes, love them as God, that God is in them. And if whenever you have objects, have gratitude that God has given them to me, whether it's my house, my car, my money. So God has to come in every relationship. Whoever I love them as God's presence, not as my child or my God is in them. So that is called unswerving devotion. Now in this Ananya, there are two parts. One is I love God and nothing else. That means God is the number one. That is one Ananya. Second meaning of Ananya is I don't love God to get something else. You see, you say, I love God, but oh God, I love you. Make my husband love me. Are you are using God to get love from somebody else. Or I love God, please make my stocks go up. The stock market is down. Oh God, please do that. Or, oh God, please make sure my son gets a job. Oh God, please make sure my daughter gets married. Now, yeah, praying to God is good. It's better you go to God to ask for something rather than you go ask somebody else. Yeah, remembering God and praying to God is good. But one should not use God as an instrument to get something else, because then what happens? God is secondary, the instrument is primary. If I say, I want God to get money, that means money is my main goal. God is just my means, my instrument. Okay, I'm using him to get something else. But God should be my main purpose. Secondly, I should not only go to God when I need anything. When I'm in sorrow, when I'm suffering, oh God, please relieve my suffering. When I'm in joy, then I don't have any time. God is there, he's fine. Let him be there in the puja room. When I have time, I will go, otherwise too busy. I don't have time to pray. I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time to read Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, what do? Every Sunday I attend for 1 hour. That also, if I am not going somewhere, if I am not busy, then I will attend. Otherwise, if I have, a picnic to go, or if I have some shopping to go, I will listen on the internet. Then that never comes. And then the other 7 days, what are we doing? Are we reading Bhagavad Gita on our own? We should get commentaries by Pujya Gurudev, listen to those. If you go on the internet, there are so many talks by acharyas from Chinmaya Mission all over the world. I know Harsha and Girish, they go to Chinmaya Mission Kolhapur or Mumbai and listen to acharya. So the point is, on the internet, there is so much available, so many good talks, so use our time in that. So point is that my goal should be that I should love God and not love anybody else. And then what happens when I love God? Then other values come automatically. When I surrender myself to God, then where is the question of amanitvam, adambitvam? Where is the question of ego? Then my attachment to things and people automatically reduces, because now I am attached to God. Then my sense objects, indriyartheshu vairagyam, detachment from sense objects automatically comes when I hold on to God. Purity of mind, unselfishness, service, love for all, compassion, patience, ahimsa, it comes automatically. Once your mind is with God, you can't have room for all these other values, all these other, these other negativities. So the values come by themselves. Jealousy will reduce, greed will reduce, hatred will reduce, love and compassion will increase, because God, who has created me, has created everybody else. So if you have total unswerving devotion to God, all other values will come by itself. Ahimsa, you cannot think about being violent or hateful to anybody, because God is in everyone. So if I am hurting somebody, I am hurting God. So that's what Bhagavan says. If you have complete devotion to me, then everything will come. Gurudev also says that we have limited amount of energy, and we spend our energy chasing after worldly things. Yeah, you need certain amount to live comfortably, but beyond that, all we are doing is just accumulating more and more in our bank balance, and you cannot take your bank balance with you. I was in a doctor's office, and he has this luxury office with 13 exact rooms and 4 or 5 doctors, and from in his office he has a computer where he can monitor every room, who is seeing who and where the secretary is working, and very fancy computer, beautiful office, 10,000 square, 15,000 square foot office. And I was visiting him, and he was showing me all this. So it was very impressive. And then it came out of my mouth, मुंह से निकल गया, ये कुछ भी साथ नहीं जाएगा. He thought I will be praising his office. I don't know why I said that. It just came out of my mouth. Nothing of this will go with you. So don't spend so much time in building all these. Yeah, it is good. You have a nice office and nothing wrong with that. But none of that will go with you. Not an inch of not even a penny of your money. Only thing will go with you is bhakti for God and your good karmas and your spiritual knowledge. That is the only 3 things will go with you. So spend your time in what you will need. This is okay. You need it for living, but my whole life should not be spent in that. So whatever energy you save from chasing after the world, you have extra energy left over. Now spend that chasing after God. Everybody has limited time and limited effort, limited energy. Where am I going to put it? So that is very important. And why do we put all our effort in the world? Because we think that they will give us sukham and ashraya. Those who are following on the chat, now you can see these words. So we think that worldly objects will give us sukha and give us ashraya. Sukha means joy. Ashraya means support. I will get my support from these objects, and I will get joy from these objects. So Bhagavan says, put your joy in me and put your support in me. I can support everything. I can support you. I can support everything. Talking about support, everybody knows that story of Govardhan, where Bhagavan lifted with his index little finger the mountain, because Indra was angry because Bhagavan said, pray to Govardhan mountain, and Indra didn't like that. So he started raining, and Bhagavan could lift that finger for 10 days, 14 days, this whole mountain. And the little boys of Gokul were saying, God, let us help you. You must be tired. So they put their little sticks, to hold the mountain. They said, humne bhi lathi lagai thi. We also help God. So God says, yes, you also help me. The thing is, God alone is doing everything in our life. He is our support, but we think I did it. Me, I do so much. The I and me and my has to reduce, because God alone is doing everything. If I am doing everything, is that like that little boy who was holding the stick? That is the extent of our effort. So they say, keep your ashraya, a refuge in God, and keep your joy in God. What we do is, it's like you are investing your money. You're putting 5,000 in this account, 10,000 here, 15 here, 20 here. And your investment advisor will say, aise nahi hoga. You combine all of them in one account, and then we have a substantial amount of money to invest, to grow. So similarly, we have put our money in all these little accounts. He said, Bhagavan says, put all of them in my account. Then you see how your money will grow. Now, it's not that God needs that. It is for us. If we put all our faith in God, then the faith itself grows. God says, I make that faith grow. In the Bhagavad Gita, he says, wherever you have maximum faith, I make that Shraddha grow. I make it grow. Now, what is bhakti? We think of bhakti as an activity. You know, you go to the temple and you offer flowers, you do prasad, or you go to your prayer room, puja room, you read some mantras, that is good. Or you put a tilak, or you wear orange clothes. Activity alone is not bhakti. We say, oh, this person is a great bhakta. He goes to the temple 3 days a week. I don't go at all. More important is the bhava. With what feeling am I doing when I'm offering the flowers, or when I'm going to the temple, or when I'm doing puja? Or am I going to the temple to show others, or am I going because I genuinely love God? A person may have total devotion and love for God, but may not show it externally. On the other hand, a person may show it externally that I am a great devotee, but when he comes out of the temple, he is mean and dishonest and hurtful to others. That is not bhakta. In the 12th chapter, Bhagavan had said, Adveshta sarva bhutana maitra karuna evacha. My devotee does not hate anybody, is loving, compassionate. So more important is the bhava. What is the inner feeling? Am I egoistic? Am I arrogant? Am I hateful to others? Am I dishonest? That is more important. And bhakti means pragadha sambandha. It's a very beautiful Sanskrit word. Pragadha means deep. Pragadha means extremely deep. Sambandha is relationship. So a deep relationship with God, not that, okay, God is there somewhere in heaven and it's okay, once in a while I pray to him. God is my friend. God is my lover. God is my father. God is my mother. God is the giver. So any relationship with God should be established. Some people love God as a child, but a deep relationship of love, that God is with me at all times. God takes care of me, and whatever I am is God's grace. So that is called bhakti, that there should be a true connection with God, not thinking of God as somebody remote sitting somewhere and then looking at me and then giving me all the sorrows. No, God is my friend. God is with me, takes care of me at all times. Another way to increase devotion, bhakti, is association with bhaktas. So if you find somebody who is truly devoted to God, go and sit with him and see how he or she, how they live their life, how close. There are some people who directly can talk to God. Sit with them and see how they are practicing these values. When these Swamijis come, lately we haven't had them come because of Gokul, because of COVID, they have not come to Gokul. But when you have an opportunity to sit with them, just sit in their presence and see how with minimum they are living. If you look at most of these Mahatmas and Sadhus and Swamis, they have 2 or 3 pairs of clothes. That's it. And nowadays they have laptop because they all have to do talks and presentation. If you go to Swami Ishwaranandaji, he has state-of-the-art computer because he's all the time doing all the, paper, PowerPoints and this and that. But aside from that, they have nothing, a watch, and that's it. And how are they able to live comfortably? While you and I, if you go to our closet, there is no place even to put one more extra clothes, but we still keep buying. But they say every year, give up a few objects from your closet, from your house, start actively giving away. So in the next 20, 30 years, you have given away 50 or 60 things, and substantial amount, not that just one, but a few outfits I will give away, a few things in my house that I haven't used in so many years. My house is overfull. Empty that and give it away to goodwill if you people whom you know. And same thing, money also, every year spend some time giving things to God. Talking about money, so there was this conference of all the world's currencies, pound and dollar and rupee and ruble, they were all there. There was a conference. And so the US had the $1 and $20 and $100 bill. So they were all there. So they were talking. So the $1 bill asked the $100 bill, so where have you been? $100 bill says, I go to all the best casinos. I go to the resorts. I go to Nordstrom, for shopping. I go to all the fancy, hotels, restaurants. Wow, man, you have a good life. Yes, the $20 bill. Where do you go? He said, not to $100, but I go to I don't go to Nordstrom, but I go to Macy and JC Penney. I go to some nice restaurants, once in a while. And my owner keeps me in his pocket. So that's very good. So they asked the $1 bill, where do you go? He says, oh, I go to the Protestant church, the Catholic church, the Hindu temple. That's all I go to. So that is what happens when we are spending on ourselves. $100 is no problem. But when I have to give to the temple, $1 also it comes out with great difficulty. They say, why does temple need money? They need money too. They have a building, they have utilities, God. So the point is that we have to support these religious institutions as well as we support ourselves, because that is how these projects will go on. Now, Chinmaya Mission is building this huge university, which is going to be like Nalanda University, where the beautiful synthesis of East meets West. Beautiful university, state-of-the-art Western facility, and also the ancient Indian teachings. So these students who come out will be brilliant and will be very useful members of society. So, and lately we have been doing that. So these are the places where I should support. And that is what the idea is, that my effort should be to support these institutions. Then the person say, when I am practicing bhakti, will I ever get any beating? Will I ever have any suffering? Yes, suffering is there for everybody. Suffering is inevitable, but a bhakta realizes that all this is coming as God's prasad, that it is coming for me to improve. And so look at every stressful situation, everything as an opportunity to improve. There is something that I am not doing correctly, which Bhagwan is trying to correct. So don't think that just because I'm a bhakta, no sorrows will come. Sorrows will come. We'll deal with that also later on in the next shloka, how to deal with sorrows. But sorrows will come, but see them as an opportunity to improve. So that is bhakti. So mai cha anya yogena bhaktir avyabhicharini, where my bhakti is not for many things, but for God and God alone. And then through that, I get all the other values. So that is bhakti. Next, Bhagavan says, Vivikta desha sevitvam aratihi jana samsadi. Vivikta desha means solitude, love for solitude. Sevitvam. Sevitvam means constant practice of solitude. And aratihi, and non-attachment to the company of people. So we think Bhagavan is saying, don't meet anybody, go and live in a cave. No, that's not what he means. Now, why should we practice solitude? Because Gurudev says in his commentary beautifully that any major contribution to society has been made in solitude. Any new invention, person sits quietly and works on it. Alexander Graham Bell, when he came out with the telephone and then went and told everybody, he had been working quietly for a long time. When Archimedes' principle, same thing, he had been thinking because his the king had told him to find out any great poetry, any beautiful piece of literature, everything the person has to sit and saw, any painting, beautiful painting. You cannot be painting or writing poetry or composing music when you are sitting in a crowded marketplace and horns are blaring. No, you have to sit in your room quietly and think. So similarly, for spiritual achievement, solitude is very important. So every day, take out some time. We all have time, but what we do is we fill our time with other things. So take out a few minutes every day where I'll only think of God, think of these values, think of these ideas that the Bhagavad Gita has given me, and how can I adopt them to develop this bhakti for God. So maybe sit and take a mala and chant his name, but then do it not mechanically, but pay attention to each bead as it moves, watch your breath. So it should not be Om Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, not like that, but pay attention to each bead, pay attention to each name, and pay attention to your breath. So spend time in knowing God, because any achievement, especially spiritual achievement, definitely needs some time every day for solitude. Then and then only can one progress on this path. So solitude is required. And then he says, but then people say, I have solitude, I have 20 and 30 minutes. What do? Open our phone. If I have nothing to do for next 20 minutes, I open my phone and see, who has sent me WhatsApp and who is on Facebook, who has gone where. And then somebody has put on Facebook, I'm having lunch prepared by my wife. Now, what is the need to put that on the picture on the Facebook? Everybody has lunch prepared by their wife. We don't want to know that. So if you have extra time, instead of wasting on all these things, spend it on reading Bhagavad Gita. People waste so much time. I'm also sometimes guilty. I also, everybody, I like to know about sports. So, I do that. But if you, and actually now they have a new app which tells you how many hours you have spent on the phone. Turn that on. And that will tell you how many hours every day. And that's a very beautiful app. I just found it this week. I didn't know that. And that's called Screen Time. So that will tell you how much time we are. And then screen time is not only phone, it is TV, it is laptop, it is iPad, we have all these devices. So the point is that limit that time and spend more time in bhakti. And then, and when he says avoid company of people, means be selective. Like we go to parties and what do they talk about? What jewelry that I have bought, or what sari I have bought, or kitne percent sale mein mila, 10% you got off, or 20% off. And then, or two people are talking about third person, she has this diamond, it looks to me fake. Or they will talk, what happened to her daughter? And then, yeah, tell me. So most of these parties are either gossip or show off. What I have, what I don't have, putting others down. And that is a waste of time. So, or people brag, I have so many companies, I have built so much, I built this internet company, I sold it for this much, or that is all they talk about. And then all pretending, I used to go to Europe for every 2 weeks, but now economy is down. I only go to Europe for 1 week. And I used to go Alaska cruise, now Mexico. So the point is that it is all pretending, all show off. And what will happen is that, what exactly will happen is that as you spend more time in Bhagavad Gita study, your name will be removed from the party list. This guy is no use. Isko bulane ka fayda nahi hai, because he's interested in Bhagavad. So they will stop inviting you, and which is very good. Because Friday, Saturday evening, instead of being in some party, you are with yourself. You are in solitude, you are studying. So slowly your invitations will reduce, and that is good. Nothing wrong with that. So the point is that when I have extra time, spend it in myself. And what will happen is slowly this teaching will become part of your daily life. Like you see two birds on the tree sitting, you will remember Mundak Upanishad, those Suparna, Sayuja, Sakhaya. You know, there were two birds on the tree, and one was just involved in the world and one was sitting in silence. Or when you see a rope, you will remember, oh, rope and snake. This world is snake and Bhagwan is rope. When you see a pot, you will say, no, this is not pot. This is clay appearing as pot. Or when you see jewelry, see all these examples we listen in Bhagavad Gita, but they will become live for you. Yes, yes, yes. That is what Shankaracharya ji said, you know. So the point is that these messages will become part of your life and you will recall. But we are not saying don't associate with people. Don't associate with people who don't think like you. Like if you have time, join a Bhagavad Gita discussion group or join a study group. We have study groups on Wednesday and Thursday evening where we meet and we talk different texts. Tuesday, we have a Devi group. Also very beautiful texts are discussed at 12 noon. So the point is that, and then I remember lately we haven't done that, but I remember every year we used to go to PRC. Neeru used to go every year. I also went a few years and spend a week or 2 weeks there. And there are 60, 70, 80 people. It's not that the people are not there, but everybody's goal is one, the same goal, that we are here to study Bhagavad Gita. We are here to study Upanishads. And from morning, they start with meditation, then they have a class, then they have a study group. Then in the evening, when they are walking, they will talk about it. There'll be another lecture. There will be arti, bhajans. So the whole day is not that you are just studying all day, but the whole day and everybody is like-minded. So they say associate with people who are like-minded and be selective in the company you keep, because slowly you will see that your lifestyle will change. Repeated listening will then make you more interested in these things and less interested in worldly things. So that is very, very important, that where I put my energy, where do I put my effort? The more effort you put, the more you will have success. My father used to say, jitni chini daloge, utna meetha hoga. You know, the more sugar you put in the tea, the sweeter it will become. That's why Gujaratis, their tea is always very sweet and their food is sweet because they put sugar in everything. So the point is that the more sugar you put, the sweeter it will become. So the same way, the more bhakti you put, the sweeter your love for God is, because your life will become sweeter. And that is the idea, that with devotion to God, my life becomes sweeter. And I have to change my lifestyle. So that's why Bhagavan says, Mai cha ananya yogena bhakti avyabhicharini, and then vivikta desha sevitvam arati jana samsadi. Spend some time in solitude and associate with those who are my devotees. Go associate with my bhaktas. We'll do verse number 12. Adhyatma jnana nityatvam.
Adhyatma jnana nityatvam.
Tattva jnanartha darshanam.
Tattva jnanartha darshanam.
Etat jnanamiti proktam.
Etat jnanamiti proktam.
Ajnanam yadatonyatha.
Ajnanam yadatonyata.
Together. Adhyatma jnana nityatvam. Tattva jnanartha darshanam. Etat jnanamiti proktam. Ajnanam yadatonyatha. So two more values Bhagavan Shri Krishna is giving, and with that we will end the topic of values, and then we will start the next topic, and that is what is Neyam, what is to be known. So here this is all knowledge, and not knowledge in the sense of knowledge of Brahman, but preparation of my mind for this highest knowledge. Because this highest knowledge will not stay unless the mind is pure. Like we have said, if your vessel is dirty, you cannot pour milk in it, it will get ruined. So similarly, no matter how much we listen to these Mahatmas and Swamijis, unless our mind is pure with all these practicing all these 20 values, this knowledge will not stay. And repeated listening, these values have come, in different chapters, in 12th chapter, in 2nd chapter, everywhere these values Bhagavan has given, scattered throughout the Bhagavad Gita, with the idea that repeated listening will make it clear to us. So, Adhyatma Jnana. Jnana means knowledge, Adhyatma means self-knowledge. So, knowing who I am, that knowledge. Who am I really? Not am I Kari or Satish or Sudha, but who am I really? Adhyatma Jnana, knowledge of that. Nityatvam, always abiding in that self-knowledge, always having that. Nitya means not once in a while, not while I'm listening to the lecture, I know I am the Brahman, I am the self. And when I go out, then all the knowledge disappears. No, constant abidance in the self-knowledge. And Tattva Jnana Artha Darshanam. So Tattva Jnana means that, again, Tattva Jnana means the essence of knowledge, which is the essence of the scriptures. And what is the earth? What is the goal of this knowledge? What is the purpose of getting this self-knowledge? Darshana means ability to see. Darshan means to see. So we say, na, Bhagwan ke darshan ke liye main mandir ja raha, I'm going to the temple to have darshan of Bhagwan. That means so constant vision of what is the purpose of this knowledge. Why am I studying this knowledge? So Tattva Jnana Artha Darshanam. And where is this knowledge going to take me? What is my goal and purpose? And etat, this jnanam iti proktam. Iti proktam means this is how it has been said. When Bhagavan says iti proktam means it has been said by all the rishis, all the Mahatmas, has been quoted in the Upanishads, So Bhagavan is saying it is not only what I am coming up with, but through the thousands of years, all the great rishis and Mahatmas have said this again and again. So this is said to be knowledge, etat jnanam. This alone is knowledge. Ajnanam yat ata anyatha. And anything opposite to that is ajnanam. So self-knowledge alone is jnanam. These values are only not jnanam. Everything else is ajnanam. It is ignorance. So Adhyatma Jnana Nityatva means constant remembrance of who I am. And this should become a constant understanding that I am that Brahman, I am that consciousness, I am Atma. And this body, mind, and intellect are my vessel. They are my car. They are my place where I live. This is where I abide, but this is my equipment. And constantly reminding myself, when I do that, then what will happen? I will develop some amount of vairagya from this body, that I am not the body. I own the body. I take care of the body. But then I don't spend too much time in nourishing and fattening the body and buying more things. And no, if I am comfortable, then that's it. I don't need to spend too much time. Also, then I have control on my diet, on my exercise, eat healthy. So I take good care of the body, but I am not the body. So constant. And that's why we repeat that in every week. And people say, how many times are you going to tell us I am Brahman, I am not the body? You have to keep listening until you understand I am Brahman, I am not this body, and the world is unreal. If I think the world is real, I need to listen more. If I think I am the body, I need to listen more. Keep listening until the world becomes, next week we'll be talking about how the world becomes unreal. It's very beautiful shlokas. So how can this world be unreal even though I see it what do we mean by unreal, and how can I stay with that understanding. We'll go in a lot of detail next week on that. And I am not the body, I am the Atma, the consciousness. As I have said before, also sit for a while and watch your body and say, okay, this body that I have been carrying is not me. I am the owner of this body, I am the occupier. Also, this mind and intellect which has been torturing me is not me. I am the witness of the mind and intellect. In fact, I am the one who gives life to this mind. So how can I say my mind is bothering me? Oh, my mind is, I am the one giving power to the mind. The mind cannot function unless I give. So then you develop some amount of physical self-control and mental control. So the mind and your thoughts, you are able to direct them. And even if sorrowful thoughts come, they don't bother me. So then, as we said, you mean such a person won't get sorrows? Yes. But this knowledge will give him strength to handle all sorrows. See, problems come to everybody. Based on my karmas in this lifetime, I have a certain amount of sorrows and difficulty written for everybody. Life is free from sorrows. But this knowledge becomes like a cushion, like a shock absorber, that no matter what sorrows come, yasmin sthito na dukkena guru napi vichalyate, Bhagavan says that having established in this knowledge, even the greatest sorrow cannot shake him. And we see in the lives of all great saints, they had much more sorrows than you and me, all of us put together, but they never wavered their faith in God. So, and also the question is, when would you like to get sick? Say, if I have to get sick, right? The sickness is written for me. Would I rather get sick at home, or would I rather get sick when I'm traveling in Europe in some strange hotel and I get stomach upset and cold and flu and pneumonia? Better at home, right? At least at home, I have a doctor. I know, which hospital to go, which doctor to go, where's the pharmacy. If I'm traveling in some hotel somewhere in Europe, in some small town, and there I have to find a doctor and then find a hospital and find a medicine and pharmacy. And I don't know the names of the medicine because they are all in foreign languages. So you would rather get sick at home than somewhere else, right? Sickness is meant for everybody. So similarly, sorrows will come to everybody. But if they come when you are with God at home, then the sorrows, you know how to handle them. But otherwise, so the point is that this knowledge gives us ability to handle problems, handle sorrows, handle all the sicknesses and difficulties, because you are in the right place where you are. The other thing is Tattva Jnana Artha Darshanam. My goal should be very clear that it is moksha. Moksha, freedom from all these worldly sorrows, freedom from, not freedom from sorrows, but the ability to stay undisturbed by sorrows, and freedom from this cycle of birth and death. I don't want any more birth and death. And one should live alert living, constantly alert living. So like in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, Narakasya tri dwara. So what are the three doors of hell? Desire, anger, and greed. Lobha, moha, krodha. So become alert. Oh, now anger is arising, means I'm entering one of the doors of hell. Now greed is arising. Now I'm in the second, door of hell. So be all the time alert. And when these negativities arise, remember that they are taking me towards hell. Bhagavan has already said, Lobha, moha, krodha. So let me not have too much desire. Let me not have anger. Let me not have jealousy. Let me not have greed. And what will happen? I was reading very well that temptations will come to everybody's life. See, when we are on the path, temptations will come. And then you say, okay, chalo, let me go do this. Let me go do that. And then slowly the time gets lost. And if you have 1,000 years to live, then you can say it's okay, let me enjoy all the temptations. Dhire dhire, 1,000 years, but we only have 70, 80, 90 years at the most, 100 years after that. And even out of those, how many years will I really be able to function? So I don't have, a lot of us I can see here are in the 60s and 70s. So we don't have too much time left. So it's one beautiful example I heard that some people, like in India, there are two kinds of trains. One is a passenger train and one is an express train. So passenger train is what? If you start from Chennai and you go to Delhi, every half hour, 1 hour, it stops in some station. And then you get down and then there is a chana wala, you buy some chanas from him. And then you buy the newspaper and then you get some pani puri and some, every station has speciality. Iska chole bhature are very good. So every station you get down and you are tempted. And by the time you reach from Chennai to Delhi, it takes 2 days. Other trains are express trains where straight from Chennai, it goes to Hyderabad, then to Nagpur, then to Bhopal, then Delhi. 4 stations you are there in 3, fast speed of train. And then you don't have time to get down and go to all these places and, have all this pani puri and chana and chole. So the point is that our life should be like that express train. I don't have too much time left. And let me not waste my time here and there in chasing after these, chana masala and pani puri. Let me keep my life focused on that and let me move hurriedly because time is short. Zyada nahi hai hamare paas. So live the life like an express train where I should go as fast as possible to this direction where I am going. And let me move like an express train, not like a passenger train. ठीक है, ये life में नहीं हुआ, तो अगले life में हो जाएगा. It's okay, maybe in 1 or 2, 3 lifetimes. Really, we don't know what next life, what's going to happen. So finish it now itself. So that is very, very important. Other thing is be watchful of media. Because these media have a sense to divert you. They will just bombard you with this information, advertising. And then another thing surprises me about this country, that the media is not impartial. Either they are very ultra conservative or ultra liberal, and they will only show one point of view. BBC mein aisa nahi hota. BBC mein they present the news as it is, the news. When you call yourself a news channel, how can you only give one side of the news? I absolutely don't understand that. And that's how the media bombards you, that this side alone is right and that side is wrong. The media should be impartial, should be unbiased. Another thing about this country surprises me is the Supreme Court judges. Judges are supposed to judge on the basis of law, not that they are conservative judges or liberal. I absolutely don't understand that. A Supreme Court judge should judge on the Constitution and on the law. But we are so bombarded by this media. We are so preconditioned that every decision we take on based on what Fox News is saying or what MSNBC is saying. The point is that temptations will come, but my mind should be focused. And also, if I do have to read news, pick up a channel which is unbiased, which gives the news as it is. And then I make my own judgment. So don't let the media influence you, because the media will take us in different directions. This is how you should think. This is what you should buy. This is the kind of people you should associate with. And people get so hypnotized by the media that then they have no room to think independently. So restrict your time on the TV, restrict your time on the internet. If you want some news or information, go to sources that you can depend on, that that they will present the news as it is, not news with their personal bias. So media and temptations will be there, but I should know that if my goal is where I am going, then temptations, let them come and go. The example they give is the horse with the blinders. If you have seen whether a horse carriages, the horse owner put these blinders so that the horse cannot see right and left and directly goes where the horse owner wants him to go. And So similarly, our life should be with blinders, where all I see is God and God alone. I don't see anything else. Nothing else is important. Does not mean you become fanatical or you become useless or you live in the forest or in the cave. When you have to work, you work with others, but you work as God's work. You're not saying that you don't work. The ability to work with others is very important. But why am I working? So to do God's work, and work without sense of I and my, without sense of doership. It is God and God's work alone. So today's two shlokas have very beautifully showed us how to practice the path of bhakti, how to have the goal of life very clear, and then stay very focused and avoid unnecessary contact with people, unnecessary contact with media, unnecessary contact with all this, and limit your time with all these other things. And as much as possible, spend time in the company of God or devotees of God, those who are bhaktas, Mahatmas, Swamijis, these acharyas, as much as possible. And nowadays, if you can't spend in live, go on the internet. And there are beautiful talks on every topic. If you just go to Chinmaya channel, I mean, you'll get hundreds of talks by Pujya Guruji, Swami Swarupanandaji, Swami Tejomayanandaji, all these acharyas on every topic you can think of, all the way from Bhagavad Gita to Upanishads to Brahma Sutras to Bhaj Govindam. So everything is available. All the chants, beautiful chants are available. So you just have to be selective and spend your time in the company of God. Thank you very much. It's a beautiful shloka. Sorry, I only was able to do two because this bhakti is a very important topic. Also, the next week's topic is so big that I did not want to start it today, where how to see that as neither sat nor asat, that neither real nor unreal. God is neither real nor unreal, either existing or non-existing. So that topic will take quite a bit of time and need some fresh thinking. So I thought I'll keep it for the first part of the lecture when the mind is ready to absorb. So it's a beautiful talk next week. It's a little difficult. Actually, the next 6 shlokas of the 13th chapter are I would say the most difficult shlokas to explain. I'll try my best to do that because the entire essence of the Upanishads has been given very, very beautifully by Bhagavan. It is like he has scanned all the Upanishads, compacted the knowledge into 6 shlokas. Very well he has done. So we'll try, and a lot of contradictions are there. So each shloka needs a lot of discussion and thinking. So we'll try to cover that in the next week. So that is, they say Sarvo Upanishado Gavo Dogta Gopala Nandana. All the Upanishads are cows, and Bhagavan Shri Krishna was a milkman, and he has milked the essence of the cows into the Bhagavad Gita. And throughout the Bhagavad Gita, this message of the Upanishads is there, but in the next 6 shlokas, it is concentrated. Like when you buy concentrated milk in a can, in a small can, there is so much milk. So in these 6 shlokas, the teaching of the Upanishad is concentrated. So we'll do that next week. Thank you very much. Hari Om. Anybody has any comments, questions, please feel free to add. It's always welcome. Any comments? Yeah, Lata.
I was reading that chapter, Gurudev's explanation. I couldn't understand the difference between Adhyatma Jnana and Tattva Jnana.
Okay, that's a good question. Adhyatma Jnana is the self-knowledge. Tattva means the essence. So what is the essence of knowledge? So one is self-knowledge, but out of the knowledge, what is the essence that comes out? It is like ganne ka juice. You have seen how they take out ganne ka juice, right? Sugarcane juice in India. They take the sugarcane and put it through the machine, and then the juice comes out. Then they double the sugarcane and put it again, and then they triple the sugarcane and put it again and again through the machine. till every drop of sugarcane juice comes out, and then whatever is left, they discard it or they feed it to the cows. So when you have studied the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, that is called running it through the machine. Just as in the machine, the sugarcane is run. So in the mind, this knowledge should be run. And then the essence of this knowledge is Tattva Jnanam. And what is the focus of that? What is the goal of that? Artha. Artha means, what am I going to achieve by this knowledge? And what is the essence of the Upanishads? The essence of the Upanishads is Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, that you are. And that is the essence. And that is, I have to constantly keep in mind. And also when I'm studying these scriptures, let me not get confused, but let me take out the essence of this. Because sometimes in these teachings, there's a lot of other material also put. There are some stories, there are examples, but what are they all leading to? That I should. So I should get the essence of the knowledge, just as I should get the juice from the sugarcane.
So the essence of Adhyatma Gyan is, no, Tattva Gyan is the Adhyatma Gyan, that I am,
Yes,
that
I
self
am.
that is connected with that Brahman, the substratum of everything.
Right, right.
Okay.
And we'll go in detail into that.
Right. Okay, thank you.
They were asking Sanskrit class. It is on Sunday on Monday at 12 noon our time. Yeah, we have advanced little bit, but we can. There is a book I can recommend for Sanskrit if somebody wishes to attend. It will be on Monday at 12 noon.
I would like to try, see if I can understand anything.
Sure. There is a book I can recommend that you can order from Chinmaya Mission.
Okay,
Maybe I can send you a message afterwards.
okay.
Aniru, anything you want to add?
No, I was just going to add to what question Lata was asking
Sure.
about, what is Adhyatma Jnanam and what is Tattva Jnanam. So what she was, you answered it, but in short, it means Adhyatma Jnana means the knowledge of the self, who my real nature is. And Tattva Jnanam is like Anil said, Aham Brahmasmi. That is the experience. You become one with it. That is what it is.
Yeah, very good. So like knowledge and experience, what in the 7th chapter Bhagavan calls as Jnanam and Vijnanam. Same thing what Neeru just said, that one is the knowledge and the one is the experience or abidance in that knowledge. The whole 7th chapter is called Jnana Vijnana Yoga. Thank you, Neeru. Yeah, so one is the knowledge and one is how I can stay in that knowledge. Yeah, that is Jnana Vijnana. Yes. Or that means Visheshana Jnana, that knowledge and then the final practice of that knowledge. That is also another way of looking at it. Thank you.
Hari Om, well, very profound, number 11 especially. Pujya Gurudev has used a remarkable word for contemplation. He says unprostituting.
I know, I was trying to avoid that word.
Well, if you really look at that explanation,
Yes.
it's amazing how, what the real meaning of that word is, and it really brings it down.
Yes.
Really, it tells you how pointed it is, right?
Right.
How pointed you have to be. So like you said, nothing else. I love my wife, I love my child, my house, this, that. But no, and then I love God. He should be the first and only one. So that I thought that was very remarkable. I really enjoy reading that part of it.
Right. Yeah, vyabhichar, prostitution, I can explain. What it means is that just as a prostitute gives her love to anybody and everybody who comes, as long as they are willing to pay the money. So similarly, we are ready to give our love to anybody and everybody, anything and everything. And then God is one of those things last. So it should not be it. So that is what they say. Vyabhichara means our love is prostituted because we are sharing it with anybody and everybody. But we should restrict it for God, just as a lady would restrict her love only for her husband, not for any other. So that is called Vyabhichara. So thank
And
you.
also
Satish.
we are actually selling our good values that
Right.
we have for just mere objects or pleasure. So that's what I think he clarified that in that. So
Right. Right. Yeah. Where the money becomes everything, becomes most important, and everything else is secondary. Right. Thank you. Good point. I kind of skipped over it, but it's there in Gurudev's commentary. So I'm glad you brought it up.
so he actually, it's the whole paragraph on it.
Yeah. No, because that Vyabhicharam in Sanskrit means that. It means
Yeah.
prostitution. So,
Correct. And actually, if you look at it, that 11 sloka, he has spent like 2 pages worth of explanation. It's very deep
right.
knowledge.
Yeah, Guru, right.
Thank-
That's true. Thank you. Yeah, Gurudev has spent a lot of time on this particular shloka. Very few shlokas he gives that many pages. You're right. Kusum, anything else you would like to add?
Just wanted to just say one thing, so though I said that. It's also Gurudev in 11th sloka says that we shouldn't have so many, the other meaning of the solitude, not to have too many crowding of thoughts in our mind. That also is a company which is going to take away from our self-realization. And the other one, Atmagyan and Tattva-gyan is, Niru has explained, it's like Paroksha Gyan and Aparoksha Gyan. So Paroksha is somebody else's, which you study as knowledge, and Aparoksha is my own experience, or my own knowing that I am that self.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Yeah, good points.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And also the other thing, I'm sorry, one more point.
Yeah, sure.
Why should we follow the values? One young lad, he was very rebellious. So he decided he's not going to speak truth. So then every time he had to say something, the truth came naturally in our mind because that's what the truth is. But then he had to try and manipulate and lie and substitute. Then he got so tired and he said, easier to stick to the truth than to the untruth. And also he says, living in false values will make us unhappy and take us away from self-realizations. So that's why we should be following these values. That was the importance of why we should be following these values. That Guruji said in his things. So thank you though, giving
Thank
me
you.
time to speak about it.
No, good points. That, your mind should not be crowded, and then we should practice the values. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Anything else anybody would like to add? Yeah, Tarlaji, yes.
Yes, today I have learned so many good things from your today's spiritual sharing that I introspect myself by listening this sharing, that till today I was praying God for getting something or to get out of the sorrows or something. So there was always a meaning or a purpose for, always to pray for the God for this reason or that reason. But now I realize that no, for every action, for every thought, we should be in touch with God. He should be, whatever we consider as a friend or a mother or a whatever, but he should be in every, that's what I've learned from your today's sharing. So I'm really thankful to you.
Thank you. Very nice comments.
Yeah.
No, especially these 9 days of Navratri when we were doing the chanting, Mother Goddess, you could feel her presence. I think those who didn't do it this year, next year, please join. It's most beautiful where they do the Lalita Sahasranamam, and for 9 days you felt Mother Goddess was there with us. So so developing this relationship. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, that's a good point.
Just adding one thing to her, that the calmness of mind comes, whatever happens, anything good, bad, you just think, these are my past karmas. If that thing comes into your mind, then you say, I have to accept it because this is the result of what I did.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, calmness of mind also comes, as Kusum said, when there are not too many thoughts, when you limit your thoughts and make it single pointed. Thank you. Hanji, Yashji, there was any comment?
Hanji, Anilji,
Ah.
I'm a little confused. On one side, we say we should treat everybody as God,
Mm-hmm.
see God in everything, animate, inanimate, every person. On the other hand, this word about not paying attention to other gods or other doesn't really seem to, somehow I'm confused with it.
You mean other gods or other people?
Well, other people, if God is in everything,
Right.
then God is in the image of Krishna.
Yes.
God is also in the image of Ganesh,
Right.
Shiva, whatever. So how is it if I pray to, are they talking about only focus on one, whether you focus
Yes.
on Shiva or you focus on Brahma or you focus on Vishnu or Krishna, one God?
Yes.
Or are they talking about, no, Krishna is the only God?
See, this is a very good question. First of all, there is only one God that we call as Brahman, which is all pervading the total consciousness, which is the support of this universe. Now that same Brahman takes different forms because it is very hard for us to connect with the formless. Where does this formless live? Who is that? So that same Brahman takes different forms as Sri Krishna, Sri Ganesha, Mother Saraswati, Lord Shiva, Vishnu Bhagwan. So these forms have been given to us. They say there are 80 crore, at least there are thousands or hundreds of these forms of God. So the idea is that there is one particular form that appeals to me, that is called Ishtadevta. That is the form of God that I love. And it could be any. We are not saying that only it has to be. Bhagavad Gita is given by Sri Krishna, but then there is, Lord Shiva, Lord Ganesha, Mother Saraswati, Lakshmi. So pick one form of God and put all your attention and love towards that. It does not mean that you become fanatic and you hate other forms. All forms of God are manifestations of one. And through that one form of God, you say that this God is not only limited to this form in the temple, but it is all inclusive. So Krishna in the 11th chapter shows this whole universe is in me. And so seeing that from form, it should go to formless, that this God that I'm seeing in the form is actually everything. Everything is God. So that's number one. That you can pick one form and it doesn't have to be only that one. Maybe even husband and wife may have different, Ishtadevtas. There's nothing wrong with that. Whichever form appeals to my heart or whichever I grew up in, maybe my family deity was, for example, Sri Krishna or Lord Shiva or whatever, then that becomes your Ishtadevta. And you love that particular form, and then you see that same form in all forms. That's why Vasudeva Kutumbakam, that's why we say this whole world is Vasudeva, is Sri Krishna. And why we are saying limit your contact with people. Yes, God is in everybody, but if I spend my time in useless gossip, useless conversation, associate with people who will take me on my spiritual journey. Others, we're not saying that you become a recluse and cut yourself off and don't interact with people. Interact as much as is necessary for important jo kaam hai wo karo, and then after that, my time should be spent towards God, and more try to associate with people who, so like this group we have here, where our thoughts are all directed in one direction. And so going on spiritual retreats, once COVID is lifted, there are, so many nice retreats and, places where you can go and associate with other people on the internet. There are chat groups. And a lot of our study groups are on Zoom. I know you are attending also the Thursday night group. So the idea is that slowly change the direction of your river, which is all the time going towards the world, divert it towards God. Put a dam so that it should not go too much in the world and more towards God. So diverting your thoughts. But having one Ishta Devta is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Whichever one you feel close to is good. Make that your main goal. Constantly remember that form, chant the name, the mantra. Suppose you love Lord Shiva, Om Namah Shivaya, or Shri Krishna, Sharnam Mama, or Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. So whatever the particular form of God you love, you associate with that, and then see that God in all. So don't limit it only to the temple or only to that one form, but from one form, go to all forms. So does that answer your question? Anyway.
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you.
Anilji, real quickly, I was thinking on the same subject when I was reading this. The way I understood it is that to purify your mind, you should bow to any deity.
Right.
However, when you actually do the meditation, you should have your Ishta Devta or whoever to be the single pointed attention to that Ishta Devta.
Right.
So that way you are successful in meditation.
Yes.
Is
And
that-
have one mantra.
Understand it correctly?
Right. One mantra, one form of God.
Right.
Yes. You cannot keep changing your mantras, cannot keep changing your Ishta Devta, Oh, I did Ganeshji for a while. I had so many obstacles. So now let me try Mother, Durga. Maybe she has more power. She will give me. They all have equal power. It's just the one you love. You just pick that. So, and then totally, yeah. But not becoming fanatic, not like, at one time, Vaishnava Bhaktas used to fight with Shiva Bhaktas and not like that. So don't become fanatical, but I love this particular form. So that is the highest. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, Kusum, can you please do the Aarti then?
Om na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhanti kutoyam agnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya vasa sarvamidam vibhati. आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की दिव्य रूप मूर्ति करुणा की आरती सद्गुरु की चरणों में उनके शांति समाये शरणागत की भ्रांति मिटाए पाप ताप संताप हरण की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की वेद उपनिषद गीता को गाया धर्म सनातन फिर से जगाया शुद्ध नीति प्रीति शंकर की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की सिद्ध बाड़ी की तपोभूमि में नित्य विराजे गुरु हमारे भक्त हृदय आनंद स्रोत की आरती श्री चिन्मय गुरु की आरती श्री चिन्मय गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियेर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मवा प्रकृते स्वभावा करोमि यद्य सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि नारायणायेति समर्पयामि सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः बोलो श्री भगवान श्री कृष्ण चंद्र की जय
Shri Sadgurunath Maharaj
जय
Jai. Thank you, Kusum. Thank you, everybody, for participating. See you next Sunday. Hari Om.
Thank you.